The air in the sterile hospital corridor hummed with an unsettling silence, broken only by the rhythmic beep of life support machines from behind closed doors. Charles Dingle, her face a mask of raw anguish and desperate fear, clutched Liam's arm so tightly her knuckles were wide. Her eyes, usually so vibrant, were now hollow pools reflecting a terror she rarely allowed herself to show. "He's fine, Charles, he's fine," Liam murmured, his voice a strained attempt at reassurance, but even he couldn't quite extinguish the flicker of doubt in his own gaze. He had seen the fear, the confusion, in Erin's eyes, a look that transcended the grogginess of sedation. But Chaz barely heard him. Her mind was a maelstrom of fragmented words, a terrifying whisper from the edge of consciousness. Mac. Mackenzie. John has Mac. The words echoed, twisted, and magnified in her mind, each syllable a hammer blow against her already fragile composure. Suddenly, a guttural scream tore through the manufactured calm of the hospital wing. It wasn't Erin's. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated agony, a sound that made Chaz's blood run cold. A figure, shrouded in shadow and moving with an unnatural, almost predatory swiftness, burst from Erin's room, brushing past Liam and Chaz with a chilling indifference. The figure's face was obscured, but Chaz caught a glimpse of something in their hand, a glint of cold steel, almost imperceptible, disappearing quickly into the folds of a dark coat. "What was that?" Liam gasped, instinctively pulling Chaz behind him. Before either could react, the figure vanished around the corner, leaving behind a lingering scent of metallic tang and something else. Something strangely floral, like lilies. But it was the silence that followed, a thick, unnatural silence that truly plunged Chaz into the abyss of dread. Had John returned? Had he done something to Erin? Or had Erin, in his fragile state, glimpsed a truth so horrific it had driven him to a desperate, perhaps even fatal, confrontation? The cold open slams to black, leaving the audience breathless, heart-pounding, and desperate for answers. The immediate aftermath of the chilling incident leaves Chaz and Liam reeling. Chaz, overwhelmed by a cocktail of fear for Erin and the disturbing revelation about John and Mackenzie, is on the verge of collapse. Liam, ever the pragmatist, tries to rationalize the scream and the fleeting figure, suggesting it might have been a panicked relative, a medical emergency in another room, anything to dispel the growing dread. But Chaz's maternal instinct, sharpened by years of trauma, screams a different truth. She knows something is terribly wrong. "He said John has Mackenzie," Chaz repeats, her voice barely a whisper, her eyes darting around as if expecting John to materialize from the shadows. He wasn't confused, Liam. He sounded terrified. He meant it. The doctors confirm Erin is stable, though still groggy. They attribute his fragmented statements to post-coma disorientation. But Chaz isn't convinced. She insists on talking to Erin, but the medical staff, citing his fragile state, prevent it. This only fuels her frustration and suspicion. Liam, though worried, tries to appease her, suggesting they wait for Erin to fully recover before jumping to conclusions. Meanwhile, news of Erin's slow recovery has reached others in the village. Robert Sugden, tormented by guilt and a desperate need for answers, is pacing his cottage like a caged tiger. The phone rings. It's a cryptic, disguised number. He answers, his voice strained. A distorted, electronically altered voice delivers a chilling message. "Your brother knows. He saw. The truth will be revealed, and you will pay for your silence." The line goes dead, leaving Robert in a cold sweat. He instantly thinks of Erin and the dark secret he's been desperately trying to bury, the true extent of John's involvement and his own complicity in the cover-up. The weight of his past actions crashes down on him, bringing a terrifying clarity. He realizes the attempted double murder was just the tip of a much larger, darker iceberg. Back at the hospital, Chaz's maternal instincts drive her to desperate measures. While Liam is momentarily distracted by a phone call from Eve, Chaz slips away and confronts a junior nurse who was present during Erin's initial awakening. Using a mix of emotional manipulation and veiled threats of reporting negligence, Chaz extracts a confession from the terrified nurse. Erin had indeed been more lucid than the doctors let on, and his frantic whispers about John and Mackenzie had been unmistakable. The nurse also confesses to seeing John earlier, lurking in the shadows near Erin's room, long after his official visit. He had a strange, almost obsessive glint in his eye, and was carrying a small, dark bag that seemed to cling ominously. The revelation sends a shiver down Chaz's spine. John hadn't left for Dundee. He was still here, a phantom predator in their midst. Armed with this alarming new information, Chaz confronts Liam, who is now forced to acknowledge the gravity of the situation. His medical skepticism begins to crumble under the weight of Chaz's conviction and the nurse's testimony. They decide they cannot wait for Erin to fully recover. They need to find John. Liam, utilizing his hospital connections, discreetly accesses security footage. The grainy images show John, looking disheveled, a haunted look in his eyes, slipping out of the hospital shortly after the scream. He's seen entering a nondescript, dark-colored van in the parking lot, driven by a shadowy figure whose face is carefully obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. The footage also shows the mysterious figure from Erin's room, a mere 5 minutes before John's departure, also heading towards the same van. The driver hands John a small, gleaming object before they speed off into the pre-dawn darkness. The object looks eerily like the one Chaz briefly glimpsed in the figure's hand. Meanwhile, Robert, driven by the menacing phone call and a desperate need to protect Erin, begins his own investigation. He tries to contact John, but his phone goes straight to voicemail. He remembers John's obsessive ramblings about a secluded, abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of the Dales, a place he used to frequent in his troubled youth, a place he claimed was off the grid. A chilling thought takes root. Could John have taken Mackenzie there? Robert's guilt twists into a fierce determination. He knows he has to find them, not just for Aaron, but to finally confront his own demons and make amends for his past. Back at the hospital, Chaz and Liam are at a dead end. The police, when contacted, are dismissive, citing Aaron's confused state and John's discharge. They see it as a family dispute, not a serious crime. Chaz, feeling the walls closing in, decides to take matters into her own hands. She remembers John's strange fixation on the old Dales legends, tales of hidden caves and forgotten paths. She recalls a particular story he used to tell Aaron, about a secret burial ground where the lost once find their peace. Could this be a clue? Robert arrives at the dilapidated farmhouse, its windows like vacant eyes staring out into the bleak landscape. The silence is profound, almost suffocating. He finds traces of recent activity, a smoldering fire pit, discarded food wrappers, and, to his horror, a small, bloodied piece of fabric caught on a thorny bush. It's Mackenzie's scarf. A primal scream escapes him. He was right. Mackenzie is here, or was. He enters the farmhouse cautiously, every nerve ending screaming. The air is thick with dust and a faint, sweet smell, something sickly familiar. He finds a crude note tacked to a decaying wall. The truth is buried. Find the path where the lost ones find their peace. John's handwriting. The note confirms Chaz's intuition about the Dales legends. Robert realizes John is playing a twisted game, leaving a breadcrumb trail that only he and Aaron would understand. At the same time, Chaz, guided by her fragmented memories and a desperate prayer, remembers a specific, ancient map of the Dales that Aaron used to pore over, a map that marked an obscure, forgotten path leading to a hidden cavern known as Whispering Hollow. It was a place where, according to local folklore, the spirits of the lost would find their final rest. Could this be the burial ground John mentioned? She convinces Liam, whose medical knowledge of hypothermia and dehydration only heightens his urgency, to join her. The race is on. Robert, deciphering the cryptic clue, is already on his way to Whispering Hollow, fueled by guilt and a desperate hope. Chaz and Liam are right behind him, their vehicle speeding through the winding country roads. Robert arrives at the entrance of Whispering Hollow, a gaping maw in the side of a cliff, shrouded by gnarled trees. The air grows colder, heavier. A faint, mournful sound echoes from within. He pushes past the dense undergrowth and enters the cavern, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Inside, the cavern is vast, damp, and dimly lit by a single, flickering lantern. Stalactites drip like frozen tears from the ceiling. And there, in the center, is a makeshift encampment. John, wild-eyed and disheveled, is pacing erratically. Mackenzie is there, too, bound and gagged, his eyes wide with terror, a silent plea for help. He's pale, shivering, but alive. A wave of relief, quickly followed by a surge of furious rage, washes over Robert. "John, what have you done?" Robert roars, his voice echoing through the cavern. John stops, turning slowly. A chilling, unhinged smile spreads across his face. "Robert, always the protector, aren't you? Always trying to fix what's broken." He gestures wildly at Mackenzie. He knows, Robert. He knows everything. And he was going to tell Aaron. He was going to expose our secret. The secret John refers to is a dark, shared history, a past transgression far more insidious than Robert ever let on. It's revealed that John, driven by a thirst for revenge against those he perceived had wronged him and his family, had meticulously planned a series of events, including the attempted double murder of Aaron and Robert, not to kill them, but to frame Robert for a far more heinous crime. Mackenzie, in a moment of drunken bravado, had stumbled upon a crucial piece of evidence, a coded journal belonging to John detailing his meticulous plans, including the location of the real murder weapon and the true motive behind his actions. He was on his way to expose John when John intercepted him. Before Robert can react, Chaz and Liam burst into the cavern, their faces etched with shock and horror at the scene before them. "John, let him go." Chaz screams, her voice cracking with emotion. John laughs, a hollow, disturbing sound. Too late, Charles, the truth is out. Aaron knows, or he will. And when he does, everything will change. He pulls at the gleaming object from earlier. It's not a weapon, but a small, old-fashioned tape recorder. He presses play. The cavern is filled with a distorted, chilling recording. It's Aaron's voice, from a prior, unrevealed conversation with John, where Aaron, in a moment of vulnerability, admits his enduring resentment towards Robert, his feelings of betrayal, and a fleeting, dark wish for Robert to simply disappear. The recording is expertly edited, taken out of context, designed to frame Aaron as complicit in a far grander, darker scheme. John's master plan wasn't just to frame Robert, but to shatter the Dingle family from within, turning Aaron against Robert, and ultimately, against Charles. He wanted to destroy everything they held dear, using their own weaknesses against them. The recording plays, ripping through the cavern like a poisoned arrow, hitting Chaz and Robert with devastating force. Chaz looks at Robert, then back at the bound Mackenzie, then at John, a cold dread seizing her. The carefully constructed piece she had fought for is crumbling. John, seeing their reactions, revels in their pain. He lunges at Mackenzie, intent on silencing him forever. Robert, in a desperate act of atonement, throws himself in front of Mackenzie, taking the full force of John's attack. A struggle ensues, brutal and chaotic. Liam, using his medical training, tries to disarm John, but John is fueled by a dangerous, psychotic rage. Just as John is about to strike a fatal blow, a shadow falls across the cavern entrance. A figure emerges, silhouetted against the fading daylight. It's Aaron. He stands there, pale and weak, but his eyes are clear, filled with a searing, unambiguous fury. He has followed them. He overheard everything. John. Aaron's voice, the hoarse, rings with an authority that chills John to the bone. It's over. John freezes, his face contorting in a mixture of disbelief and fear. He had underestimated Aaron's strength, his resilience. He had believed his manipulation was complete. Aaron, despite his physical weakness, moves with a newfound resolve. He looks at Robert, a complex mixture of hurt and something akin to understanding in his eyes. Then he turns to John, his gaze unwavering. You tried to break us, John. You tried to turn us against each other, Aaron says, his voice gaining strength. But you failed. We are stronger than you think. John, defeated, drops his weapon. He is utterly broken, his grand scheme unraveling before his eyes. The police, alerted by an anonymous tip, later revealed to be Dingle, who, though absent, had been keeping a watchful eye on his family, storm the cavern. John is apprehended, his reign of terror finally over. Mackenzie is freed, bruised but alive, and immediately implicates John, revealing the true depth of his monstrous plan and the evidence he had uncovered. As the police lead John away, he casts one last, chilling look at Aaron. You think this is over, Aaron? The real darkness. It's just beginning. You'll never truly escape what's inside you. The episode ends with Aaron collapsing into Chaz's arms, exhausted but resolute. Robert stands nearby, a silent sentinel, his face a canvas of remorse and a fragile hope. He knows his journey of atonement is far from over. The cavern, once a place of terror, now feels like a tomb for John's dark ambitions. But as the camera pulls back, showing the dales shrouded in an ominous twilight, a sense of foreboding lingers. John's words echo. The real darkness. It's just beginning. The audience is left wondering, what deeper truths lie buried? And can the Dingle family truly heal from the wounds inflicted by such a malevolent force? The stage is set for an explosive next episode, where the echoes of betrayal will reverberate through the dales, forcing everyone to confront their deepest fears and hidden secrets. The chilling echo of John's final, venomous words, the real darkness. It's just beginning. You'll never truly escape what's inside you, still reverberated through Aaron's mind, even as the cold, damp air of Whispering Hollow was replaced by the familiar, if still sterile, atmosphere of the hospital. Chaz sat beside his bed, her hand clasped in his, her face a mixture of profound relief and an undeniable, lingering fear. Liam, haggard but vigilant, stood by the doorway, conferring in hushed tones with a police officer. Mackenzie, wrapped in a blanket, was giving a statement, his voice trembling but firm, recounting the horrific ordeal. But Aaron wasn't fully present. His gaze was fixed on the ceiling, replaying the entire horrifying tableau, John's deranged smile, Robert's desperate act of protection, the chilling recording of his own manipulated voice. And then, the memory of that earlier scream in the corridor, the shadowy figure, the metallic gland. It clicked. It wasn't John alone in that van. There was an accomplice. And the scent. The lilies. Suddenly, a blood-curdling shriek pierced the quiet of the ward. It was a sound that tore through Chaz's heart, a sound she knew intimately, a sound of utter devastation. Eve. Chaz sprang up, her eyes wide with terror, recognizing the distinct anguish in her daughter's cry. She raced out of the room, followed by Liam and a bewildered Aaron, his four-pole clattering behind him. Down the corridor, a scene of chaos unfolded. Eve, hysterical, was being restrained by nurse, pointing a trembling finger towards a hospital room. The door of that room was slightly ajar, revealing a glimpse of stark white sheets, and a single, crimson rose lying on the pillow, its petals just beginning to wither. She found him, a nurse stammered, her face ashen. He's gone. Chaz pushed past them, her heart hammering against her ribs. She peered into the room, and there, on the bed, lay a figure, covered by a sheet. A figure that was undeniably Robert. But it wasn't the relief of seeing him alive. It was the absolute stillness, the unnatural pallor visible even beneath the sheet, the eerie absence of movement. And beside the rose, on the bedside table, a small, elegantly folded note, written in a delicate, almost poetic script. Chaz snatched it, her fingers trembling as she unfolded it. Her eyes scanned the words, and a silent, gut-wrenching scream tore through her. The cold open slams to black, leaving the audience to grapple with the unthinkable. Has Robert met a tragic, untimely end? And what devastating secret does that note contain? The impact of Robert's discovery sends shockwaves through the hospital and beyond. Chaz stands frozen, the note in her hand, the words blurring through her tear-filled eyes. Liam, ever the doctor, rushes to the bedside, his movements swift and professional, even as his face registers profound shock. A quick, grim assessment confirms the worst. Robert Sugden is dead. The cause of death isn't immediately apparent, but the stillness, the utter lack of struggle, suggests something insidious, something deliberate. Eve, inconsolable, collapses into Chaz's arms, her cries echoing the raw grief that grips the Dingle family. Aaron, weak from his ordeal, leans against the doorframe, watching the scene with a horrifying detachment, his mind struggling to process this new, devastating blow. His complex relationship with Robert, a volatile mix of love, resentment, and a deep-seated bond, is now severed, leaving a gaping wound. He clutches the spot where he took John's blow, feeling a phantom pain that mirrors the ache in his soul. The police, who had been focused on John and Mackenzie, are now scrambling. A homicide investigation is immediately launched. The hospital is placed under lockdown, staff questioned, security footage reviewed with a new, frantic urgency. Chaz finally manages to read the note aloud, her voice trembling. "Dearest Robert, some secrets are best kept in the grave. You thought you could atone, but some debts can never be repaid. This is not the end of your story, but the beginning of mine. Your silence bought you time, but time, like life, is fleeting. With deepest regret, A.S." The signature, A.S., sends a fresh wave of confusion and dread. Who is A.S.? And what secret was Robert keeping that led to this? Mackenzie, still recovering from his own trauma, listens, his eyes widening. He remembers John's coded journal, the fragmented references to a larger conspiracy, a shadowy figure working behind the scenes. Could this be the key? Meanwhile, John, now in police custody, sits in an interrogation room, a disturbing smirk playing on his lips. When informed of Robert's death, he simply chuckles. Some people just can't outrun their past, can they? I told him the darkness was coming. He should have listened. He refuses to elaborate, reveling in the chaos he has sown. The police, though suspicious, cannot connect him directly to Robert's death. He was apprehended at Whispering Hollow. They suspect an accomplice, but John remains defiantly silent. The village of Emmerdale is plunged into a collective state of mourning and bewildered fear. News of Robert's death spreads like wildfire, fueling speculation and suspicion. Cain Dingle, upon hearing the news, descends on the hospital like a force of nature. His usual gruff demeanor is replaced by a cold, simmering rage. He finds Chaz, still in shock, and demands answers. "What in God's name happened, Chaz?" he growls, his eyes narrowing. "First Aaron, now Robert. Is there a target on our backs?" Chaz recounts the events at Whispering Hollow, the recording, John's threats, and then the devastating discovery of Robert. Cain listens intently, his mind already connecting dots, forming theories. He's not one to trust coincidence. Aaron, released from the hospital against medical advice, his determination overriding his physical weakness, returns to the crime scene, Robert's hospital room. He walks through it, a ghost haunting a freshly made grave. He notices the crimson rose again, its petals now fully withered, and the faint, almost imperceptible scent that still lingers in the air, lilies. "Lilies," he whispers, a flash of memory igniting in his mind. "I smelt it before. When that figure ran past. The metallic tang. And lilies." Chaz and Liam exchange a look. Could this be a clue? The police had dismissed the scent as residual perfume, but Aaron's heightened senses, sharpened by trauma, knew it was more than that. It was distinctive, unsettling. Mackenzie, still shaken but determined to help, reveals the existence of John's coded journal. He explains he only saw fragments before being captured, but remembers references to the Lily assassin and a garden of forgotten secrets. He hands over the bloodied piece of fabric from his scarf, the one Robert found, confirming it was Mackenzie's. It also bears a faint, almost invisible, embroidered symbol, a stylized lily. This new revelation sends a jolt through Chaz and Aaron. The Lily assassin. A chilling moniker for a mysterious killer. They realize John wasn't acting alone. He was part of a larger, more sinister network. The AS in the note now takes on a new, terrifying significance. Cain, now fully engaged, takes charge. He understands that the police, bound by procedure, are moving too slowly. He believes in Dingle justice. He enlists Moira, who, despite her grief for Robert, is fiercely loyal to her family and possesses a keen, street-smart intuition. Together, the Dingle family begins to piece together the fragments. Chaz remembers John's ramblings about a garden of forgotten secrets, a place he said held the answers to all the Dale's buried truths. Aaron recalls John's unusual fascination with an abandoned manor house on the fringes of Emmerdale, a place with a notoriously overgrown, wild garden, famous for its rare varieties of lilies. Cain, acting on instinct, heads to the manor. He finds the gates rusted shut, the walls crumbling, but the air is thick with the scent of lilies, an almost suffocating perfume. He forces his way in, his eyes scanning for any sign of recent activity. He finds a hidden greenhouse, almost completely consumed by overgrown vines. Inside, amidst a riot of wilting lily plants, he finds a hidden compartment. And within it, a chilling discovery, a small, locked wooden box. Meanwhile, Aaron, tormented by guilt and the need for answers, confronts Robert's widow, Victoria. She is devastated, broken by grief, but also fiercely protective of Robert's memory. She accuses Aaron of always bringing trouble to Robert's door. Aaron, in a moment of raw honesty, reveals the truth about John's manipulation, the edited recording, and the Lily assassin. He explains that Robert died trying to protect a secret that could still endanger them all. Victoria, seeing the genuine anguish in Aaron's eyes, begins to waver. She remembers Robert's increasingly paranoid behavior in the weeks leading up to his death, his cryptic warnings about a powerful, vengeful enemy he had made years ago. She finally confesses, Robert had received a series of anonymous threats, all signed AS, all demanding something called the legacy. Kane returns with the wooden box. It's old, intricately carved, and locked. Aaron recognizes the style. It's identical to a box Robert had, which contained keepsakes from his past. With a heavy heart, Aaron produces a tiny, ornate key from a chain around his neck, a gift from Robert years ago, meant for his deepest secrets. It fits. Inside the box, they find not money or jewels, but a stack of old letters, a photograph of a young woman with a kind but haunted expression, and a meticulously detailed ledger. The letters, dating back decades, reveal a shocking truth. Robert's father, Jack Sugden, had been involved in a dark secret. He, along with several other prominent figures in the Dales, had conspired to cover up a tragic accident, the death of a young woman, a brilliant botanist named Anya Sharma, who had discovered a dangerous, illegal chemical dumping operation run by a powerful corporation. Anya was AS. Her death was ruled an accident, but the letters imply she was silenced. Her legacy was not just her research, but also her unborn child. The photograph is of Anya, and the ledger details the illegal activities, the cover-up, and the names of all those involved. The legacy wasn't a treasure, but the truth, the justice Anya had been denied. And the AS in the note? Not Anya, but her child, now grown, seeking vengeance for a lifetime of injustice. The Lily assassin was Anya's heir, her avenger. Suddenly, a realization dawns on them. The Dingle family has been targeted not because of John, but because of their connection to Robert, and through him, to Jack Sugden. John was merely a pawn, a deranged tool used by a far more cunning and ruthless individual. Just then, Kane's phone rings. It's a disguised number. He answers, putting it on speaker. The same electronically altered voice from Robert's call speaks. The legacy has been found. Now, the final phase begins. The Dales will pay for their sins. Before anyone can react, the lights in the Dingle living room flicker and die, plunging them into darkness. A chilling whisper echoes from the darkness, a voice that sounds eerily similar to the one on the phone, but closer, inside the house. You thought you were safe. You were wrong. Panic erupts. In the darkness, the family fumbles for flashlights, their hearts pounding. The windows suddenly shatter, one by one, sending shards of glass flying. A figure, swift and silent as a phantom, moves through the house. It's the Lily assassin. The assassin confronts Chaz, their face still obscured by shadows and a wide-brimmed hat, the scent of lilies now overpowering. They hold a delicate, silver-handled dagger, its blade gleaming menacingly. Your family, Charles, they built their empire on lies and deceit. And now, they will pay. Chaz, summoning all her Dingle defiance, stands her ground. We're not like them. We didn't know. We'll help you expose the truth. The assassin laughs, a cold, humorless sound. Help me? You are all complicit. And now, the true heir of Anya Sharma will claim what is rightfully hers. Just as the assassin lunges at Chaz, Aaron, despite his lingering weakness, intervenes, tackling the assailant. A desperate struggle ensues in the chaotic darkness. Kane, with his brutal efficiency, joins the fray. They manage to disarm the assassin, who fights with a surprising, almost supernatural strength. As they finally overpower the figure, Kane rips off the hat and pulls away the scarf concealing their face. The light from a suddenly working streetlight streams through a shattered window, illuminating the face of the Lily assassin. It's Sarah Sugden. The revelation hits them like a physical blow. Robert's own niece, Jack Sugden's granddaughter. Sarah, who had always seemed so gentle, so artistic, so kind. Her face, usually so sweet, is now twisted by a cold, unwavering fury, her eyes burning with a vengeful fire. Sarah? Chaz gasps, utterly devastated. Why? Sarah, her voice now raw and unfiltered, devoid of the electronic distortion, reveals her motive. She explains that she stumbled upon Anya Sharma's forgotten research years ago, hidden in her grandmother's attic. She discovered she was Anya's daughter, adopted and raised by the Sugdens after her mother's murder was covered up by Jack and his powerful co-conspirators. She had lived her entire life unknowingly amongst her mother's killers, her identity stolen, her true heritage concealed. John, driven by his own warped sense of justice against those he felt betrayed him, had been her unwitting pawn, a useful tool in her elaborate plan for revenge. He didn't know the full extent of her plan, only that she sought to expose the hypocrites of Emmerdale. The final scene sees Sarah, broken but unrepentant, being led away by the police. The Dingle family stands amidst the wreckage of their home, their lives shattered by the shocking betrayal. The legacy has been uncovered, but at a devastating cost. Robert is dead, a victim of a truth he tried to bury. The Dales are forever changed. The episode ends with Aaron, standing amongst the shattered glass and debris, clutching the photograph of Anya Sharma, his gaze lost in the complex web of family secrets, betrayal, and vengeance that now defines their lives. John's chilling words echo once more, the real darkness. It's just beginning. The Dales, once a haven, now feel like a breeding ground for shadows, and the future of the Dingle family is shrouded in an uncertain, terrifying darkness. The audience is left with a profound sense of loss, shock, and the chilling realization that the truth, when finally unearthed, can destroy everything.